Welcome to the Syndicate Alliance Launch Prep Guide. So who are we? We are the Syndicate Alliance, which is consisted primarily of the Order, the Underworld, Anguish, some other smaller companies that are working together with us, and some communities revolving around specific streamers that play with us and are our friends and work with us. We all met in the beta tests, and we are the group that painted the island purple. We turned the entire Olympus server map to Syndicate and held it for most of the beta. And what are our goals? For day one, we want to work together to get as many of our companies to buy settlements as possible. Obviously, this is really only going to be possible for some of the bigger companies just based on the math of how getting to 100k works, especially on populated servers. If we wait to try to get everyone 100k and the smaller groups don't contribute their totals into the pot, then we might miss out on getting some settlements altogether as other factions and other groups get them. But we also don't want any company to have more than one settlement, because if they do, then their war times will be exactly the same. We don't want that. We want to be able to stagger our wars as much as possible. We also want to coordinate our members to help everyone level up as quickly as possible. This is one of the reasons we've been so avid in trying to get everyone organized, because if we can get our member base more organized than everyone else, then our average player level and experience will be higher than everyone else's, and that's a huge advantage, especially when it comes to war with how PvP scaling currently works. For the first week, we want to work together to establish ourselves as the dominant power for the Syndicate on our server, and doing this by working together, coordinating, and doing as much as we can to forward the Syndicate and our faction on the server and defend our holdings. That's the other big thing. We want to win any wars to hold territory that we own and control. We're probably not going to look to expand too much, but obviously these things are going to be worked out as the situation on the ground unfolds. For the first month, we want to establish the balance of power on the server to promote a fun and healthy environment. We don't want our server to be too one-sided any one way. We saw this in the beta tests. We turned Olympus purple and everyone left. It became a dead server, and there's a reason why we're probably not going to end up on Olympus for the launch, because people know what we did there and people have a bad idea of it in their minds. They're not going to want to go back there. So that's one thing that we want to try to avoid. It's not going to say we're going to hold back necessarily. We just want to promote other good, strong, healthy competition and figure out a way to get that on the server. But at the same time, we don't want things to be too volatile, because that's not fun to play in either. We want to get our collaborative economic engines going. We have in the Order a plan for our economy, for trading, and for cornering the market in our town that we're going to own. And some of the other groups have similar plans. If we're all working together to get that done, then the entire company will benefit economically. A rising tide lifts all boats. In long term, we want to develop an organized PvP scene, and we want to make sure that all of our members can have fun playing the game. Those are our long-term goals. So general advice. Going into New World to the launch, day 0 plans, so before the game launches, this is pretty much tonight as this video is releasing, make sure you have the game pre-installed, and if you're a streamer, get your Twitch account linked. It's in the upper right-hand corner around here is where you can do that on the menu screen. You want to keep an eye on Discord for the server announcement. Whenever we are going to announce the server about 3 hours before launch, so 5 a.m. Eastern time. Keep an eye on Discord for that. Also be in Discord to coordinate with your playgroup. It's very important. You want to plan out some meals. Try to keep it healthy. You want to focus on low prep time for your meals so that you don't have to spend any extra time if you can. And again, a lot of this stuff is if you can do it. This is just good ideas. In that vein, do any chores that you might have that might take up time. Make sure that you get anything that you can get out of the way. You want to clean whatever water bottle you're going to use. It's important to have water to stay hydrated. So if you have like a long use water bottle, go ahead and clean it out, because you're going to get a lot of use out of it the next couple days. Go to bed early tonight. Give yourself a time in the morning, set your alarm. You want to have plenty of time to get ready before you sit down and play. And we'll kind of get into that here on day one after launch. You want to get up early. You want time to do your normal morning routine. So that includes things like showering, shaving, if you got to do that, get breakfast, do anything else you need to do in the morning, feed pets, let them out, do whatever you got to do. But yeah, give yourself plenty of time to sit down. You want to have the game open, and you want to be starting to hit that refresh button on the server list no later than 7 p.m. EST. By that time, we will have announced the server that we're going to be playing on. We already know it's going to be Eastern, so these times all work out. Again, just keep an eye on the Discord for that. As I said, keep an eye on the Discord for any developments. In open beta, the servers went online more than an hour before they were supposed to. So just keep an eye on Discord for that. If anything like that happens, we will let you know. Also, hop into Discord with whoever you're going to be playing with to pass the time. Just sitting there refreshing can get boring, but you can take some time to socialize. Don't get discouraged if you still get caught by the queue. It's gonna happen. But patience will win the day out. As long as you try to do everything you can to minimize that, it should be as best as you can. And then if you still get caught by the queue, just have some patience and you'll get through it, and you'll get on your way. So for the first week, what are some general tips for the first week? You want to stay healthy. You don't want to overwork yourself. We don't want any burnout. We kind of talked about this with getting healthy meals, but also some other things that you might want to look into. Stretching your fingers and wrists. I will provide links in the description below to some good stretches for your fingers and wrists, and like just your hand and arms in general, that you can use. And they're very good stretches when you're doing long sessions of gaming to help prevent things like carpal tunnel and other long-term health issues. So just make sure you're doing that. In a similar vein, try to get some exercise, even just a quick walk around the neighborhood or whatever you got. That can help you out a whole lot. Taking little breaks to do things like that is very helpful for your health long term. While you're playing, if you're going to be playing for a very long amount of time, take some time to stand up and stretch your legs every hour or so. That'll help you keep good, healthy circulation. These are all things kind of in that mid-range, what you need to be doing. For the first month, and then going forward, don't neglect your life. We're all going really hard into this game, or a lot of us are, but that doesn't mean that we want anyone to get super consumed or have a problem with anything. So, try to keep a healthy balance. If you're having any problems, either with keeping a balance or with any kind of in-game issues or any other members of the community, don't be afraid to talk to leadership if you're having problems. Find what interests you in the game. It's a game, it's supposed to be fun, it's not a job. So find the things that you enjoy, that interest you, and make sure that you have ways to do them and that you are enjoying actually playing the game. That's a big thing. Another thing that can help with that is engage with the community. It's a social aspect of the game that can't be neglected. That's the big part of this game, especially MMOs. You gotta have a group to play with or engage with the community, and that will make it so much more fun and entertaining and meaningful and impactful when we do things and achieve things as a community. You can really feel like you've been part of that. And kind of another big important thing, lastly, play at your own pace. Make sure you're having fun, as I mentioned before. Don't feel any need to get to any certain milestone super quickly. We have people who are going to be rushing through things. If that's you, great, that's me too. But if you want to take your time and just have fun and enjoy the game at a slower pace, that is perfectly fine. Every little bit of contribution will help, whether it's someone blitzing through really fast or taking their time and just taking the scenic route. It is a very pretty game, so I don't blame people for wanting to take their time and enjoy and get some pretty screenshots. So the early game is your starting town. You will be doing these mostly solo, but people from your group, if you spawn together, feel free to work together, group up. It's also a good idea to group up with people who are in your launch day groups just as soon as you can, just so you can see them on the map. But you can use this guide to help you with the starting area. Link will be in the description below. You can see it's a free leveling guide. it has for your starting zone, and it will take you through step by step. Okay, you're on the map here, go do this thing, go do this thing. You can just say, no, next step. It tells you what you're doing, how many you need to do, specific amounts that you need to gather of certain materials. It's all very important. This is very, very important for the beginning, and our plan is, when we were developing this, we found this tool, and our immediate plan was almost identical to their starting advice for all the zones. So just use that tool. It's very handy, very intuitive, very informative. But also to that, there is a premium version that goes into the higher levels, but you will not need that. That is what the rest of this video is for you guys. In a similar vein, you can use this map to help you find locations and resources. It is incredibly helpful. You can turn filters on. You can have, oh, I want to see only the iron, or maybe I want to see specifically like where the silver is around, and it shows you where all the veins spawn. It shows you where different abilities are. If you have the areas here selected, it will show you the zones where there are monsters and what type and what level they spawn there. It's all incredibly helpful information in terms of navigating your way around the world and finding materials that you need to find. So use that. Again, both of those links will be in the description down below. Everyone should get a hatchet as soon as possible and upgrade it to mastery level 3 to get the berserk movement speed buff. You should do this even if you're not going to be playing hatchet, because this is just, this is your mount in the game. It's a long running buff that lets you travel overland very, very quickly. In comparison to everything else, and the biggest time inefficiency in the game in terms of the early game progression is how long it takes you to get from point A to point B. So if you can get that berserk movement speed buff and just use it as a essentially just think of it like a mount. You swap it into your secondary slot, hit the berserk, run across, and then when you get to wherever you're going, you just swap it out with whatever your actual second weapon is. That you're going to be saving a lot of time in comparison to everyone else. That's a big time saver there. Plan to meet with your group the first time you get to Fisherman's Bend. If you are following the leveling guide very closely, as I mentioned up above, then if you spawn in First Light, it wants you to stay in First Light and do literally everything in First Light, and you can do that. It's not inefficient to do that, but you're going to be showing up to the Fisherman's Bend, that first part of the main story quest, at a different point in your progression than the rest of your team. So if you do spawn in First Light, you can just leave Fisherman's Bend as soon as you hit like level 12, or as soon as everyone else says, hey, we're going to Fisherman's Bend, come over here. Make sure you hit harvesting 30 and mining 20. There's not really a strict timeline on this, but you need to be able to harvest river cress and petal cap, which both require harvesting 30, and you need to be able to mine silver, which requires mining 20, and you'll need all of those things at points pretty early on in the main story quest. Last thing in the early game is we need everyone to donate as much gold as you can spare. Don't go out of your way. Don't give everything you got away, because you have your own needs as a player as well. But if you have anything to spare, donate to your company's leader so that we can be getting those towns as quickly as possible. By the time you hit level 9 and join a faction and can get your you can join the companies, you should have close to 1,000 gold if you do everything correctly. So be sure that if you have any of that you can still spare and you don't need for anything, go ahead and give it to your company leader so we can start buying those towns. Even if your company isn't the one to get it, it is worth it to you to help us buy the town, because the Azoth teleport cost reduction alone is worth it to you. It will let you go so much faster and not have to worry as much about your Azoth. Getting to this point should take you between 6 and 9 hours of gameplay, depending on how quickly you can get through things and how lucky you are with certain RNG and certain like spawn timers. But yeah, about 6 to 9 hours to get to that point of being around level 20. Don't worry about gear too much. It will become obsolete in a few levels anyway. So especially during the early game, don't worry about gear at all. Moving on to early and mid-game grinding tips, always pick up side quests. You can do them at your own pace, but you can't do a side quest that you don't pick up. But just because you pick up a quest doesn't mean you have to do it. There's no limit in how many quests you can have in your quest log. You can just leave it there forever. So always pick them up. Only flag for PvP if you think that you're in the top 1% of the progression curve. It's worth it if you're not going to die, because it's a 10% XP buff. That's huge. But if you die and have to respawn, especially if you have to respawn back in town, if you didn't have a camp set, that can cause you to lose a lot of time having to run back to where you were and pick back up. So if you're in a good group and you're confident in your guys' ability to do PvP, and you think you're pretty high up in the progression curve, you're not going to run into other people who are going to be flagged up and that could gank you because they're higher levels, then yeah, turn your PvP flag on. You'll go 10% faster in your progression. But if you don't think you're up there, it's not worth it. Focus on doing group content with your team that's level appropriate. So things like portal runs will usually require multiple groups unless you're unless you're significantly over leveled. But you want to have no more than 5 levels under the suggested level of the smallest portals in the node. So in a node, there's one big portal, the main portal, and then a couple of smaller ones that spawn around it. And the ones that spawn around it will always have a slightly lower level. Worth noting that you must have your Azoth staff to do these. So you have to have completed the main story quest up to the point where you get your Azoth staff, which is around level 25. If you waste time on these, your efficiency tanks, so you need to be fast. The biggest thing that hurts you and you don't realize it is spending time between the portals. If you want to get good XP out of the portals, you have to do portal. Do the portal, kill everything, go to the next one. Do the portal, kill everything, go to the next one. You can't spend time lagging around, going behind, taking your time walking between them. You can't spend time to just open every crate that you get between portals. You got to go as quickly as you can to get good efficiency out of these. Elite zones. You must be no more than 3 levels under the mob's level. This is because you are getting entirely based on your ability to kill mobs, and the way that the game works is if you are under leveled to a mob, it will do more damage to you and take less damage from you. So 3 levels under is where we've determined that breakpoint hits where you can start doing them efficiently enough for the XP to be worth it. These aren't the best thing for character XP unless there are 3 or fewer groups farming the zone. So if there's more than 3 other groups farming the zone, there's more than 2 other groups farming the zone with your group, you're fine. But as soon as anyone else shows up, your XP rate is going to drop below where it starts being useful and effective. However, that is not true of your weapon mastery. If you need to grind weapon mastery, or you need to get gems or Azoth or anything like that, elite zones are still the way to go. If you're the only group at an elite zone, the best thing for you to do is to split into 2 groups of 2 and a solo, or if you have like 2 groups there, still have it spread out into 3 groups, so that the game thinks there are 3 groups there and splits up the XP as if it were 3 groups, but each individual is still getting more because the XP that's getting split into the 3 groups is only being divided between fewer people. So essentially, if you have space, do this. Expeditions and repeatable quest cycling. This one's a little weird. So specifically for the Amarin expedition and some of the other ones, for every expedition there is a quest giver that will allow you to get a repeatable quest that you can get extra XP for doing the expeditions. This is where the bulk of the XP from doing expeditions comes from. And for the Bones for Barchamedes quest, how it works is you need to go into the expedition, and in the expedition there will be monsters that drop bones, and you need to collect 3 bones from those monsters to turn in the quest when you leave. However, there are 5 different monsters in the expedition that will drop those bones. So it is possible to go in, kill 3, walk back to the door, leave the expedition, turn in the 3 bones, go back into the expedition, and continue on, and then get the next 2. And so when you walk out, you go back, you go and do the next one, you already have 2 bones on that next quest because it's an infinitely repeatable quest. And once you get that done, you can just keep on cycling that until you run out of tuning orbs. We'll get to that in a minute. Basically, the idea is Barkimedes, the quest only needs 3 bone turn-ins, but you can get 5 from each run of the expedition, so make sure you are always getting all 5 from every run of the expedition. Just remember, when you do the thing where you leave the expedition, you have to leave 1 person in the instance at all times, or your progress gets lost. Make sure you get all 5 bones from each run is basically the thing that we're trying to tell you there, and you get extra XP. So mid-game, prioritize main story quests over pretty much anything else. You don't want to make your travel too inefficient, so if you have to run all the way across the map, it's probably a good idea to hop between quests as you go. And don't worry about turning them in until you're in a more advantageous position to do so, but that's why you always want to be picking up every quest that you can if it's on your way. Same thing with picking up gathering materials, gathering and harvesting. It just gives you a chance to level up those skills, but also gives you pretty decent XP, especially early game. At level 25, each member of your group should have 2 keys to Aeternum. You want to run it about 10 times with the Barkimedes quest, as we mentioned before, because everyone should have 2 keys to Aeternum. I believe you get 1 key from the main story quest, and you get another one from doing some specific quests in Windsward. When you hit the level 35 level gate in the main story quest, you want to go to Brightwood and start doing the area quests there, do the side quests. If you're already level 32 or higher, you can start doing Brightwood Isle. At level 35, a side mission in Everfall will give you a key to Starstone's Barrows expedition. If you complete the side missions in Brightwood, you will also be able to pick up an additional quest there that requires you to do Starstone Barrows, so it's essentially loading up on different sources of XP for doing the same amount of work, which is the Starstone Barrows expedition. You can also get the Barkimedes quest for Starstone. Barkimedes will give out quests for Aeternum and for Starstone Expedition, and for Starstone Barrows, so make sure you get those every time you do Starstone Barrows. Once you're done with that, continue the main story quest until it sends you to do the Depths Expedition. You want to complete the side quests in Restless Shores to get the extra tuning orbs for the Depths Expedition. And then once you have those, you want to go run the depths until your group runs out of tuning orbs. Be sure to make the side quest from the alligator. It works just like Barkimedes. There's a little alligator who's in the pond right outside the little cave that is the entrance to the depths. From this point on, you'll be able to sell high quality gear, so keep note of this. Any really high quality gear that you or your party don't need, you don't want to break that down. You want to sell it for some massive profit, and this is going to be true for every expedition that you do from here to the end of the game. So late game, you want to go to the Great Cleave region and start doing every side quest, and I mean every single one. You get some nice rewards, but it's necessary to get the 580 gear score weapon quest later on. We'll get into that more, but it's a very important quest for you to do. So you want to make sure you get that done. Also, once you're done with the side quests, do the PvP missions. You want to do this specifically because in the Great Cleave, the rewards for doing the faction missions are going to be higher than anywhere else, and you want to rank up to get the renown or the faction standing so that you can do the faction per advancement missions, the last one in the set, and you want to do that in a group so it's easier. And then if your gear is not as good as the faction gear that's available to you, go ahead and buy it because you have the tokens laying around. Once you reach level 50, go to Ebonscale Reach and start doing all the side quests there. You will get a free tier 4 bag plus a key and a quest for the level 55 expedition. Once you reach level 55, go do the Dynasty Shipyard expedition until your group runs out of the tuning orbs. Always get the bonus quests from the guy at the entrance, very similar to Barkimedes and the alligator for the depths. Once you're finished with that, return to the Great Cleave and run PvP missions if you need to improve your gear score with level 60 faction gear. And then you can go back to Eden Grove. Eden Grove is the region Eden Grove, and you want to start completing all the side quests there, but you do not want to do the Garden of Eden expedition. There are side quests in Eden Grove that will lead you into Garden of Eden. You want to continue, before you go into Garden of Eden, you want to continue grinding until you hit level 60. So for endgame, once you hit level 60, look for a new mission in the north, in the Corrupted Lands, which will give you a 580 gear score weapon. You must have Mastery 20 on a weapon to get this quest. The exact quest is different for each weapon and will take you to different places, but you can still do them as a group. It will give you an excellent weapon. You want to then start doing high level portals and grind the level 63 to 65 elite zones, which are all in the northern end of the map. You can find them on the map that I displayed earlier. You want to do this until everyone has gear score 570 or higher, and that's total gear score. Once your party has gear score 570 or higher, and you've completed every side quest in Eden Grove except for the ones that send you into Garden of Genesis, go complete it 10 times as a group, because you should have 2 orbs apiece, 2 tuning orbs apiece from having done the main story quests and the side quests in Eden Grove. This can give you best in slot items and super rare in-game crafting materials. And then very similarly, you're going to go, once you've run out of the free tuning orbs that you get for Garden of Genesis, you want to go over to Reekwater and complete all the side quests to get keys for the Lazarus Instrumentality Expedition, and run it until your group is out of keys. You can give your best in slot items and in-game crafting materials that you get from these. Those are super important later on. And then you get into your, once you've done that, you get into your in-game routine. So you start running portals to farm the materials that you need to craft the tuning orbs, so that you can run Garden of Genesis and the Lazarus Instrumentality for in-game items. As I mentioned, best in slot in-game items and crafting materials. Other than that, you want to help defend our territories, keep them from going into conquest, or keep them from going into conflict, and if they do go into conflict, help fight the sieges if you're super duper up there in terms of gear score and level. And after that, work on gathering and crafting skills. It's, if you want to, if that's something that you're interested in, go and start pumping those out. Our main crafters will always be looking for people who can help them refine materials, or who can do things like that, and start having, especially having high level gathering skills is going to be super important. And even after that, some of the higher level crafting skills, a lot of the high level materials and things, they are limited to how many of these super duper high level items that you can craft in a week. So it's worth it to start getting your own crafting skills up there once our main crafters have their stuff maxed out. Finally, your group and you. So for our temporary launch groups, the groups that we created are based off of the survey that we put out, and mostly are just to get you guys playing with a group of people who are going your own pace. These are no obligation. Don't worry if you can't keep up, or if you're going too fast, it's perfectly fine. If your group starts to separate too much, there's always things you can do about it. If one member is falling behind, or if you're the one person who's going super far ahead, if you're getting 10 or more levels apart from the rest of your group, you can just go ahead and leave that group, or they can and start using the looking for group, because if you're too far behind, they're going to be wanting to go into stuff that you are way too low level in, and they'll just one-shot you. And if you're too far above, then you're not really going to be getting the appropriate amount of XP, so you're just getting slowed down at that point. The groups that are missing a person can just use the looking for group channels in Discord to get a fill in, and if you are the one person who is leaving the group in that case, you can also do the same thing to find another group that's going your speed. It'll be nice if our members can make some new friends here. We want to get you guys to being social and having all the different our different member communities at the member level be interacting more and being more comfortable with working together. But it's okay if these groups dissolve. They are designed to be temporary. Each company will handle their long-term teams differently for whatever they're trying to do. But yeah, again, these groups are just aimed at getting our members to level 60 as quickly as possible. Some final notes. Don't stress too much. It's perfectly fine to play this game at your own pace. I mentioned this earlier, but we're all here to play the game and have fun. We're all in this together, and when we work together, we're going to be able to accomplish incredible things. The whole is always more than the sum of its parts, so don't get stressed out too much if you don't think that you're contributing more, or if you think that there are people who are contributing way more. Don't let that make you feel guilty or anything. And if you're going super hardcore into it, don't worry too much about what other people are doing. Just focus on doing the best that you personally can, and if we all do that, then it will be enough. On a final note, I'd like to share a favorite quote of mine. I think it's fairly topical. There are no safe paths in this part of the world. Remember, you are over the edge of the wild now. and in for all sorts of fun wherever you go. Thank you all very much for listening to this preparation guide. I hope you have found it helpful. And with that said, see you all on Aeternum.